In the past few videos, you've probably noticed that I've mentioned airflow a few times. So this week, let's go into it with a little more detail. Hey, what's up everybody? Dimitri of Caddac Gaming here, and today we're going to go over the importance of airflow and some basic things to keep in mind when planning out the airflow or your case or your fan choices. Now, first things first, I really do prefer to prioritize airflow when building a computer, when choosing the case, when choosing my fans, when choosing my cooling, because especially with the way that GPUs and the AMD CPUs work, is the cooler that you can keep them, the higher they'll clock themselves. And if you're not keeping them as cool as they'd like to be, you're kind of leaving performance on the table. Now, as I've mentioned, one of the most important things is for a lot of people trying to balance the noise with the performance. So, you can spin a fan at 100% and keep things pretty cool. That's going to be a really noisy computer. So if you don't mind that, you're more than welcome to do so. But for me, kind of finding a balance between having quiet fans that aren't making too much noise and having a case with great airflow and great cooling capabilities is like the perfect marriage for me. Now, one thing to keep in mind is a lot of these silence-focused cases don't have the greatest thermal performance a lot of the time. Now, people like Gamers Nexus have proven that you can basically control the speed of your fans and have better fan placement, better quality fans, and a better case that has good airflow. You can keep it just as quiet as one of those silent cases while having much better thermals. So let's go over the different types of fan configurations that you can have in a build and their placements and like when they should be used. So most people commonly know of the negative and positive airflow case setups. Now the biggest difference between these two is really going to be the dust buildup in your case. Personally, I don't go for either positive or negative air pressure, and I go for more of a balanced case airflow. But sometimes it'll usually end up being one more intake than exhaust fans. Right now, however, my main gaming computer has 6 intakes and only 4 exhausts, whereas my streaming computer has 4 intakes and 3 exhausts. One of the most important things when planning out where to place your fans, however, is you want your intakes to be filtered as much as possible. So if your case has the front panel with a filter and the bottom panel with a filter, those are great spots to put your intakes because you're going to be pulling in less dust. Now, the thing between positive and negative airflow cases is that if you have a lot of your fans exhausting air, the case is going to try to get air through all of the nooks and crannies and all of the spacing in the case. So a lot of the times, those are not going to be filtered and you're going to end up with a little bit more dust. So prioritizing putting your intake fans on filtered panels of the case will help keep things cleaner to reduce the dust, but also just take better care of your components. Dust getting into fans is what can like eat into the bearings and whatnot, so it's usually best to try to keep them as clean as you can. Another thing to take into consideration is the quality of the fans that you get. So there are some fans that do a really good job of being quiet while moving lots of air at a good RPM, and then there are others that are more flashy and not meant to perform as well, but maybe look a little bit better. If you're going to prioritize performance on your case fans, there are a few options that are really good, like the Be Quiet Silent Wings 3, the Noctua A12 fans are really great, and the Arctic P12 fans are also very great. There's a lot of really good fans out there, and depending on their usage, their quality can be a little bit more important. So as I mentioned in the last video where I went through the BIOS and how to do fan curves, my case fans don't really go above 55 to 60% until my CPU is getting pretty hot. So the quality of those fans isn't as important as long as I can keep them quiet at that 55-60%. They do a great job of pulling lots of air into the case. And my high quality fans, right now, they are the Be Quiet fans on my Dark Rock Pro 4. They're doing a lot of the hard work and moving that hot air out of the CPU through the fins on the cooler and pushing them right towards the exhaust fan on the rear and the exhaust fans on top. Now, there are two different types of fans. There are static pressure fans and airflow fans. Static pressure fans are a lot better at moving air through things like filters and radiators, whereas airflow fans are just really good at scooping large amounts of air and grabbing as much of it as possible, but it doesn't have the same kind of force that a static pressure fan would. So keep that in mind when you are purchasing your fans. But again, I will leave a bunch of fans that I recommend in the description below. And if you have any questions about fans, the ones that you're maybe looking at and what have you, feel free to ask me. But I will leave a bunch of the ones that I recommend for all purposes down in the description. And my final recommendation when thinking about airflow is to clean your computer. A lot of people neglect this portion of owning a computer and they'll let it get extremely dusty. The more dusty that filters get or that radiators get, the less efficient they become, the less air that can get pushed through them, and the hotter your components will get. So I like to personally open up my cases once a month at the minimum and just give it a nice dusting with a compressed air canister or an e-duster just to get a lot of the surface stuff. And then once a year or so, I'll actually take off both panels. I'll take out my GPU and I'll do a little bit more of an intense clean. I'll unplug everything and put the case on a desk and kind of dust out all the fans and try to clean off everything. A lot of cases that have removable filters, you can run those under water and clean off most of the dust. So what I normally do is I'll dust off with an air canister first, get a lot of the excess stuff off, and then I'll go and wash them really quickly and let them dry overnight before putting them back in the computer and turning it on. Make sure that you put those back on and they're dry. You don't want to have any water on there because they'll just throw it through your case. So in the description below, I will leave a bunch of links to recommended fans and recommended cases. In the Discord, I often update a list of my recommended cases based on ones that I've personally built in and based on ones that Gamers Nexus and other reviewers have reviewed well for airflow and temperatures. Now, if you can notice that a lot of these will tend to stick within a few companies, and these are usually companies that do prioritize airflow over design. But over time it'll shift, and I'll always try to update those pinned messages in the Discord. And that's it. If you guys found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you like this video. Think about possibly subscribing so you can be notified of future videos of the sort. If you have any questions or comments about today's video, you can leave a comment in the section below, or you can go ahead and join the Discord. We can have a little bit more of a discussion on there. Be sure to, when you drop in, to say hello, and everybody else will chime on in. We have a few channels that are specifically made for help or recommendations, so feel free to post your comments and questions there. As always, I stream on Twitch from Friday until Tuesday. Come check me out and say hello. You can ask questions while I'm streaming, and I'll try my best to answer them as quickly as I can. It's also a really good way to have kind of a back and forth conversation as well, so if you prefer that, love to see you there. Thanks again for watching to the end of the video. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you next Friday.